Hello. Hi, everybody. Brian here, quantlabsnet.com. Today is June 12th. Okay, so I want to go over an interview question. This is regarding quant related. It's from the website over at StackExchange, the network, stackexchange.com. So it's quant.stackexchange.com. Question is interview question strategy with the perfect R2. Let me first get the definition of what an R2 is. It's a stat. So basically, I'm on Investopedia and R squared definition, calculation, formula, uses, and limitations. So basically, what it is, it's an R squared number that tells you how well the independent variable in a statistical model explains the variation in the dependent variable. It ranges from 0 to 1, where 1 indicates a perfect fit of the model based on the data. Key takeaways. R squared is a statistical measure that indicates how much of the variation of dependent variable is explained by an independent variable in a regression model. In investing, R squared is generally interpreted as the percentage of a fund's or security that can be explained by movement in a benchmark tool. This is the one to pay attention to based on the question. R squared of 100%, meaning 1, means that all movements of a security or other dependent variable are completely explained by movements in the index or whatever the independent variable you're interested in. So let me repeat that. It means that all movements of a security are completely explained by the movements in the index. Okay, let's go back to the responses. So there are a couple of comments here, and then there's two answers. So one of the comments was most likely a trick question. High R2 are almost always because of spurious regression, or is pointed out by another guy, which case response is spot on. This is basically from this guy. I wouldn't trade it at all because I wouldn't believe it. So that's one of the comments. And then the guy also responded saying that based on something that's true, but it will not be useful or actionable, meaning the regression left shoes on the right shoe. So it's unexplainable. Now, here's the answers. I'll give you the better answer, I think. No, let me give you the accepted answer, the more popular answer, which is it is ironic you know what's going to happen to the market perfectly. Why do you need an expected value? So this is what I think the questioning you, that's what they want to hear. You know you know it already. If you know the die is going to be 6, the expected value is 6. So meaning if you get a 1 that basically, at the expected value is going to be perfect. And it sounds like it's not actionable from the other comments. However, if we take it as a given that your model, perhaps through time travel, is perfect, there is an interesting discussion to be had. And I think this is what the interview is looking for. So this is another way for an interview to get tripped up over this kind of question. I think we've gone over this in the past podcast recently. There's a website that kind of handles these sort of scenarios. But again, you would be expected to be properly schooled on this. But anyways, let's go over what was said here. Buying when anticipate an increase and selling when you anticipate a decrease sounds appealing, but I do have some caveats. For instance, if you buy when a tiny gain is expected, your gains will be negated by a trading fee, commission. When it comes time to sell, you might sell at one time to maximize your overall return, but push back the sale and a bit if that means long-term capital gains, taxes instead of short. The return might be a bit less, but after your tax return, how much money you get in your pocket would be greater. You might favor the latter situation as a real asset manager, even if the higher return from a freshman finance is the former. Interesting. I think this kind of guy, Dave, would get hired, it sounds like, with these kind of responses. There's also a matter of how you calculate R squared. If you square the Pearson correlation between the true and predicted value, you'll get a perfect score of 1 despite the prediction being terrible. Discussing this may have been worthwhile in the interview answer. So again, this is what maybe the interviewer is looking for as the answer. There are several ways of calculating R2, R squared that are equivalent in setting like simple linear regression, but what that you're not equivalent to more complicated setting. What calculation yield that perfect value of 1? Being tricked into thinking that bad predictions are good could have implications when it comes to trading fees and taxes. These are things that most people may not consider, but because you're being interviewed, let's say at Citadel, one of the big firms, the quant firms, you're assumed to be the elite of the elite, so you'd be giving these kind of answers. So this is what I'm saying. You got to be properly schooled on this. Being tricked into thinking bad predictions are good could have implications when it comes to trading fees and taxes. I already said that. For instance, if your model prediction is where your return would exceed the trading fee, then you would want to make the trade. However, if the return's not as great, you might not earn enough on the trade to justify the trading fee. As far as calculating expected return, you know exactly what your return would be since you know your buy and sell price. There isn't really any averaging to do. So it gets even deeper. So another guy, Hirsch Deep, said, it is ironic that you know what's going to happen to the market perfectly. Oh, yeah, I already covered that. So all in all, the point here is that you got to know your market conditions and everything around that in terms of, as one person said, the impact of trading fees and taxes. So it's more than just simple trading. And I think these are sort of things that interviewers in jobs are looking for career. So the only way you can really learn about that is by doing it, by actually maybe building your own platform for trading or trading yourself using these techniques that you're supposed to know from a quant perspective. If that's a case over, let's say, 6 months or a year, you'll know what you're doing when it comes to these stats given and how your mind will respond to it based upon what this guy Dave mentioned. So I'll put this post in the blog and the definition as well from the Investopedia for newbies at this. So again, you got to be very clear on this, know your stuff, and know everything around it as well. That's the whole point of doing this podcast today. Again, you get more information. You can always sign up quantlabsnet.com. We've got our courses online as well under online program menu, under the more menu option. When you go there, quantlabsnet.com. And as I said, always sign up if you want to know more about these kind of podcasts and posts that I put up related around this sort of thing. Thanks for listening. Over and out.